What's cooking in Nigeria's gender wars? To our guests, please
Buchi
give a
Onyegbule,
special Ake welcome.
Maryam
to our
Laushi,
guests,
Buchi
and
Oluwatofunmi Alo,
Maryam Laushi,
and our host
and
Aisha
Oluwatofunmi
Salaudeen.
Alo, and our host Aisha Salaudeen.
Is this thing working? Okay, yes it is. Hi everyone. Lola, I don't like how you introduced me. Why'd you say I'm a troublemaker? I'm very gentle. My name is Aisha. I am a journalist, TV and film producer, and most importantly, I'm one of those crazy feminists. Just a caveat there. This is going to be an interesting panel. We're going to be talking about gender roles, but specifically the intersection with gender-based violence. We think there's a connection and we want to have a conversation about it, and also to talk about solutions. How can we minimize? I feel like this is a conversation we have every time. I'm personally sick of it, but it's also important. So it's one of those things that you can't avoid because it still exists in society. So we're talking about this in the context of Nigeria, but unfortunately everyone can relate because it's a global problem. So it's just what it is. They've already done the intro. I don't need to. Okay, let me go. Buchi is the Africa Director for Narrative 4. He's also a journalist, and he threatened me not to say he's a human rights activist. So he's not a human rights activist. Maryam is a communications expert who is also a proponent of social justice. We probably know some of her work somewhere, you just don't know she's the one. She's the one. Oluwatofunmi, should I call you Tofumi or Oluwatofunmi? Tofumi is also she's a marketing specialist, but she's, an activist, a human rights activist. And you did that cool thing on Twitter where you made a thread of all the women that have been killed. Somewhere that's it again.
So it was a thread of women who have been killed by their husbands or sons because they failed to cook or they cooked the wrong meal.
Yikes.
Or just something related to cooking and they were killed for it.
Very great, because the first question is actually for you. Not great that they did that, just great because it leads to what I'm saying. And first question is, how deeply entrenched do you think gender roles are in our society, especially in the context of domestic chores like cooking? Talk to me about that.
Okay, let's play a game. If you know the song, please sing along. Okay. Mommy in the kitchen. Daddy in the parlor. Children in the garden. Exactly. That's how deeply entrenched it is. And it's been passed down, I think, from generation to generation. In schools, in social studies, our kids are taught that their moms are caregivers, their moms are cooks, their moms are supposed to take care of the kids, and the dad's job is to provide. In church, we're taught about, I'm a Christian, so I'm speaking from a Christian perspective, we are taught about the Proverbs 31 woman who wakes up early in the morning to what? And then everywhere, during traditional marriages, when you call people to advise the bride, one thing they will always say is, never let your husband go hungry. And it's been passed down from generation to generation in all of our societal structures. There's just this one thing that just says that women should always cook. If you hear of a woman and a man who are married and have broken up, they will usually ask, did you not cook for him? Did you not like your food? Yoruba people even have a saying that says, Obeti, Balele, Okinje. So it's everywhere.
What does that mean?
It means that whatever food your husband does not eat, you don't cook it.
Oh, okay.
That's what it means. And Yoruba women all over the world, women all over Nigeria take it very literally. Like, you hear stories of people. I remember someone on Twitter as well was saying that she had, I think, bulk beef or something. And she had said, I have bulk beef. I'm trying to go off meat. Come and take. And a friend had said, my husband does not eat beef, so we can have it in the house. So it's just a thing where women just think that, they are responsible for their husband's stomach. There's another saying that says the way to a man's heart is true. So it's everywhere. I can go on and on just bringing out examples of how we've just been indoctrinated to think that we are responsible for our husband's meal or like our partner's meal. So it's everywhere. It's deeply entrenched, from church to school to just like random conversations, things like that. I was at the hairdresser's a couple of weeks ago, and this woman was just saying, please hurry up, I need to go and cook for my husband. So it's everywhere, I think.
Okay, interesting. So it's just stuff that we learn right from when we're kids, and it just keeps growing and growing. It's basically conditioning. Buchi, next question is for you, right? sorry, a man, like I was like, I'm going to pick on him a lot on this panel. How do you think what she said about the gender roles that currently exist, how do they link to, one, toxic masculinity and then gender-based violence, in your opinion?
Okay, yes. First off, I do think I've been set up by the composition of this panel. Absolutely. Hopefully it won't be as hot as Lola is promising. If it's hot, it's not good for me, right? So, first off, I'm not usually comfortable with the term toxic masculinity because I think it's something we just latch onto and just splash it on literally everything, right?
Why are you clapping? Don't clap.
Please don't set me up. Don't clap. Do not. Do not.
So, so you are uncomfortable with it because it's used a lot in discourse.
I think that, as with many things today, we often take terminologies that we don't think deeply about and we apply them to literally every discourse that we have. Please do not do this.
Why are you
I am
clapping?
begging. I am begging.
What did he say that is
Please,
so
I haven't
profound
said
that you
anything.
are clapping?
Right?
He said he did not even define what it is and you are clapping. What did he say that you are clapping?
I was hoping that the conversation would be a lot more analytical rather than combative. So I think that what we can look at is, does it exist? Absolutely. But you have to understand the why. Maybe it's the teacher in me who keeps having to go look at the etymology of it all, right? The concept of being masculine comes with expectations, right? And that's from from history, right? When Braun was king, power was right. Mm-hmm. And to be a man, you had to be a gatherer, you had to be a provider, you had to be all of these things. And you expected to be stoic, you expected to be firm, you expected to always show leadership, show no weakness, you know? Never subsume yourself to another man by believing that he could be stronger or that the woman could be stronger than you are, right? So all of that is what created the gilded cage that we have, that we men think is a great thing. That is patriarchy, right? It's a gilded cage because we think it benefits us, but it doesn't, it traps us. And that's why you have to talk what you call toxic masculinity. But you cannot just talk about toxic masculinity without talking about the why it exists.
But it exists, and just because you're uncomfortable with it being used doesn't mean.
But I'm coming there.
I get what you're saying. So just let me be sure so that I don't sort of pile on. What you're saying is not that because what I'm hearing is you're saying you're uncomfortable with it being constantly used without people digging into the context, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think that people use toxic masculinity as with many terms, even when it doesn't even apply. Right?
Okay.
It's something that we latch onto and just spray.
Okay, got it.
It's very common. It's a social media age where rhetoric over sense, right? And if you're thinking toxic masculinity, you have to first think the masculinity part, right? Why are these the expectations of you as a man? And then you have to engage it. So why does that translate into gender-based violence? I can tell you it's for free. Because the world has now exited or is exiting that particular point where brawn is right? Where brawn is expected to be what gives you avenues to success. Now it's more intellect, which levels the playing field a lot more, which then means that the world is now making sure that women have much more equal or level playing field. But the problem is we forgot one particular thing, to actually tell the men that it's fine. You know, and so what you get is that we're raising, I make this joke a lot, but I think it applies. We're raising 21st century women for 18th century men, and that's what is translating to it. So somehow or the other, we're forgetting to educate the men. And not just educate them, but actually educate them that it is fine, and that this is good for us.
So what I'm hearing is societal conditioning is playing out, but one gender is slower to catch up compared to the other gender. So it's kind of like a thing of women are conditioned, like what she said, as you're growing up, they're already telling you your place is in the kitchen, and men are conditioned to kind of like stifle their emotions, be the man of the house, that kind of thing. One is catching up with times, and the other is just perhaps like trying to explore the context for that one is going to take us forever. There's so many reasons why men are not catching up faster with the with times. Like they're benefiting from the patriarchy, and if you are benefiting, you're not going to want to leave. That's just one of many reasons. So that's kind of what I'm hearing. We're conditioned differently, right? What, do you want to say something? We have to move to the next question.
I feel like you're oversimplifying my statement, and that will put me in trouble.
All right, same.
Please don't.
Clapping. Waiting the
Don't oversimplify my statement.
Okay,
to put me in trouble.
So it's more like I'm trying to say back how I understand it, and then you can correct, because I don't understand the perspective of men as I will for women. So it's. I'm sorry if you feel that. Buchi is actually my friend, guys. I promise. I'm not trying to pile on. So maybe correct me just a bit before we go to Maryam. What am I missing?
I think that what you're missing is that how the expectations that we have, which conditions, and I like your word conditioning, because I often say that we're a product of 3 E's as human beings, of our experience, of our environment, and our exposure, right? So all of this is what makes us who we are. So the places where you grew up in, the experiences you're exposed to, that's what defines you. And in this society today, you grow up as a man, you understand XYZ is what you're expected to be. And it's told to you in many ways. Toughen up. Dude, what is wrong with you? Why are you acting like this? If you break down, you're acting like a woman. You lose someone in the house and they turn to you and they say, you're supposed to provide leadership. So why should you be crying? If you're crying, what would the women do? Things like that. Those are the things that condition you to believing that this is how you are supposed to be. And the reason I say it relates to gender-based violence is because we still do not understand why that is not who we should be. And so when you see men who have women or have women around them who actually are not the definition of the ways that they've been taught that women are, they find it difficult to handle it. And that's how it can relate to gender-based violence. But I'm not speaking for men in general. I'm not speaking about men in general. I'm giving you reasons as to how it could happen.
So because they are unable to understand that switch in the kind of women, it leads to gender-based violence. So maybe they react. So they react to whatever form of violence, whether it's physical, verbal, right? That's what I hear.
Aisha, I want to add to that. I think the part that is also there that we've not mentioned is the entitlement that comes with being a man.
Okay.
So apart from the pressures, there's entitlement that if I'm with a woman, she should serve me. If I'm with a woman, she should cook for me. If I'm with a woman, I am. So that entitlement comes with being a man. And I think a lot of men don't know how to let go of that, or to interrogate it, or to even live without it. I think that's what causes. So when you're in a situation whereby you have been taught over and over again that you're entitled to that in a marriage or entitled to that in a relationship, when she does not do it, your reaction could be anger, hatred, and then violence.
Interesting, because that entitlement is still a part of the conditioning. Men are just conditioned to be entitled. I always say that nature is inherently sexist. You're born a man and you are just entitled. You have to be this, that. So I think it all comes back to societal conditioning, because women are the opposite. So the man is entitled and the woman has to sort of be polite. She got.
He made a face. He made a face.
Oh, you made. I'm going to watch back the thing. And I'll come back for you. But it's facts. It's facts. I know, I grew up in a place where you dare not voice your opinion, your thoughts. Meanwhile, the boys, my brothers, there were things they could do. Bear in mind, I'm older. They were allowed to go out. I would stay at home. I'll be questioning things. My sister and I had to cook, and it's bro, what the fuck? So there's that entitlement, because I see it in, they're grown now, we thank God, but I saw it in them why do I have to do it? It's your job. So it's crazy. I think there was something you wanted to say before
I
we
wanted
move on.
to add that so a lot of this conversation is based on husband-wife, but you'll be shocked that in some of the things I found, men were killing their mothers. There was a particular story where it was during Ramadan. She had been fasting, he had been fasting, but because when it was time to break the fast, food was not ready, he killed her. Men are killing their daughters for not cooking. So I find that even though we focus a lot on relationship, it's just entitlement to women in general, not just their partners, their daughters, the mothers who condition them to believe that it's their right, they're killing them as well. So it's a very, very broad conversation, and I very much agree with Maryam that it's just entitlement to just any woman around them. just recently on Twitter, this girl, Hawa said she went to Ebano, she had things in her cart, and a man just dropped things and said, "Are you going to the till?" And she said yes, and he said, "Take my things to the till."
We don't like broke
It's
men,
just
like,
random. It doesn't have to be their partners. They just entitled to women and our labor just anyhow and just to anybody.
Even at work, it happens.
Yes.
And I promised myself at work, I'm never going to serve anybody tea. Because it's not because I wouldn't normally do it for someone I care about, but once you're a woman, it's almost as if it's expected of you. So when people are serving tea, I'm a professional, and you want me to stand up while another man is sitting to go serve people tea when we are all professionals here? No, everybody, since we are working, everybody can serve their tea, but then I've also had experiences with men who have served me tea. And so I like how in certain situations you can see a different side, but I think that it's the norm when you are in a situation, people just feel entitled to you as a woman being the caretaker, you know?
Yeah. Maryam, let me stay on you, because I think one of the things that make this so rampant, like what we're talking about entitlement, is the lack of consequence, right? Or shall I, it hardly exists. And so I want to talk about our legal system. You made a thread about men that kills their wives because of food. I wonder, what does our legal system currently look like, or what do you think? Actually, let me see how I framed the question with. All that talking has made me forget how I framed it. Give me a second. Yeah, do you think our legal system is effective or doing enough to prosecute, like cases like this? I feel like if it serves as a deterrent to others, you think twice before you harass a woman or kill her because of food. Do you think it's effective? And if whatever your answer is, why?
So it's not effective. That's the first thing, because I think we are still having a lot of those experiences, and even when people are convicted for it, we see it happen again. So I think the legal system has to work hand in hand with how we socialize ourselves and how we, like in society, how we view even women as a whole. So we are talking about how, okay, so in Nigeria it's a crime to, at least due to the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, being violent towards your wife is a crime, right? But you find that women still go to the police station after they've been assaulted, and the policeman is going to ask you, what did you do? Yeah. Even a policewoman might ask you, what did you do that caused him to hit you? So even though we have, like, there are laws there that obviously make it illegal to kill someone, but go and watch the opinions when a man has killed his wife. Go online and just see, you'll be like shocked, beyond shocked. And I honestly feel like I am in danger anytime I see people react to those things, because they make killing a woman normal, justifiable. Yeah. Like, for example, like there's this popular gospel singer that was killed by her husband, yes, Sinach, right? And the opinions I saw about Sinachi, sorry. So, like, the reactions shocked me, because people were like, somebody actually went as far as saying, you never know, maybe this is just the time that God made for her to go so that she'll not fall in sin or something like that. So I feel like as much as our legal system is there and some people do get convicted, there's still a fundamental problem with how we view women and women's right to exist without centering a man. I don't know. I think that's just one of the issues that we have.
That makes sense. And that actually leads to my next question for you too, for me. But I want it to be a little bit more specific. What do you think, because what you're describing is a cultural problem, is a societal problem. So what do you think are some of these cultural barriers that, one, prevents the law from being effective, but also prevents survivors from just reporting? Most people would rather just not say anything.
I was going to add to Miriam's point that we have a legal system, but our legal system has been corrupted by our cultural norms. And when you go to a police station and you go and say, I know my rights, this, and even just like outside women reporting, oh, my husband beat me because of food, just you and I, if we have like an altercation, maybe the police officer, and we know our rights, they'll say you were rude to the police officer. It's not a crime to be rude to a police officer. The police officer is harassing me. Do you understand? Our legal system our cultural norms have meddled with our legal system so much that survivors don't see our legal system as a place to run to. Do you understand?
Right.
And again, it's different things. For example, if it's a deeply religious household, they'll prefer to go to their religious leaders than go to, police. And obviously, because the leaders are conditioned and are even conditioning people to say, oh, but you are wrong, you should have cooked for him. That way, there is no legal recourse, and she has to go back to that house where she's been abused. Even if it's not a religious household, if just a household where, where Yoruba families say there's an Olubawi or a, Oloriebi, the Oloriebi will still say the same thing and say, but you should have cooked for him, or you cooked the stew that he didn't like, and all of that. So the people that condition us are the people that we go to. And you can see that there's just, it can't work that way if we keep going to the people that condition and say, you must cook for the man. And again, even in our legal system, even for women who are bold and brave enough to go there are countless times where you hear people go to the police station and the police said, oh, this is a family matter, we don't meddle in it.
Yes.
So in like that way, and mind you, they are going to the police station to policemen who probably beat their wives for the same thing. So if I go there and maybe the police officer just finished beating his wife last night, obviously it's not going to take me seriously. Obviously now I have no legal recourse. And even for the bravest and strongest of women who then go, the man is arrested, they're charged to court, what will people say?
Yeah.
That I dragged my husband to court because he beat me for cooking. So as a woman, when you think about all these different factors, sometimes it feels like it's not worth it. It's not worth the stress. Let me just leave, or let me just abide, or let me just do the cooking. Do you understand? So there's just a lot of factors that prevent survivors from coming out and saying, you know what, I'm being abused at home. Like, I can't, it's not right, and I shouldn't be suffering this much.
It's a good segue to my next question for you, Buchi, because why are you smiling? No, one thing that I'm hearing is that societal conditioning is just so powerful. And yes, it's going to take a long time to break. Like I can't even imagine having some of these conversations, say with my mother's generation. Where do I start from? It's going to take forever to break that cycle. And so my question for you is, what do you think off the top of your head? Like what kind of programs, conversations, policies should we be having when it comes to like encouraging people to unlearn these dangerous, beliefs about the role of men and women?
Okay, first it's really, again, it's usually, it's always sad hearing these tales, but it's a lot different when you're the man sitting and you're sort of like the visual epitome of what they're talking about. So I think one thing we probably didn't include was, before I answer that part, is it's also a power thing, right? It's a reflection
100%.
of the perception of power that men feel like they have. And that's what translates into it, because a lot of these things don't happen with us. You see a really scrawny dude who slaps his girlfriend around for a perceived slight, and if I talk to him and I'm a lot ruder than his girlfriend, he probably would look at me and say, "Bros, not be so," and walk away, right? He wouldn't be able to show that because obviously he probably think I'll beat him up, which I probably will. But that it's a reflection of the power, right? And so I think we needed to include that. As to how or what the way forward is, I cannot presume to know, but one of the things I can say is that for the past 3.5, nearly 4 years, I've been doing a lot of work around empathy and with young people and in schools. And I know that you can have better conversation when you are able to get people to see things from a different perspective, especially from the perspective of the other person. And I can give a really quick story. Sometime I wouldn't say the exact location, but somewhere in Southern Africa. So my organization does a lot of work around using stories to show, to reflect another point of view. And so we had a story exchange where it was a gender-based story exchange. So we had boys and then girls. And we paired them to 20 students, 2 per each. And each of those students had to come back and retell a personal story that the other person had told them, but in the first person, about their challenges coming to school, either as a boy or as a girl. And one of the boys had to tell the story of the girl that he was paired with. And this was in a very underserved community somewhere in Southern Africa. And he said, one of the days, I don't come to school sometimes, or sometimes I don't want to come to school when I'm on my period. Because, again, this is a poor community, so sometimes they don't have money for sanitary towels and for all of that. And because the boys insult me, if they see that I'm staying, then there's mockery, you know. And sometimes even when I'm not on my period, or when I'm on my period and I'm moody and maybe I'm in pains, and then someone talks to me, I snap at them and they'll be like, look at her, it's because she's on a period, that's why, you know, things like that, those jokes. And when he finished that story, you see how much it affected him, because now he had to walk literally in her shoes. And during the reflection, he asked the teacher who was there, can I and the other boys, can we, you know, give you some money every month from whatever money we have so you can buy sanitary towels for the girls? And she turned to me afterwards and said, Buchi, I've been trying to teach this respect for the other person, and all of this just in an hour. And so this, and he was one of those who mocked the girls. And so, but the change that he experienced, or the change that we saw in him, was because he had experienced a true moment of empathy. And I think it's important to mainstream that in the conversations that we have. And sadly, that's not what we get. We get a lot more rhetoric than humane conversations, and a lot more, and I understand it. Maybe I'm privileged enough to not be from those who receive the shorter end of the stick, and that's why I can think back and say, okay, maybe a bit more circumspection. But I think that would move the needle a lot faster, right, than what we get. I remember we were having a conversation 2 days ago, and if I ask everyone here what you think the least effective US House of Congress was in the past 5, 6, 10 decades, you probably not know. But if I ask you what you think the best one was, you probably tell me it was maybe the one with AOC, Tlaib, and, you know, that was headed by Pelosi and co, because it was really popular, it was really loud, it was in our faces. But I can tell you for free, it was actually the least effective US Congress in nearly 100 years, because there was no proper legislation, there was no landmark bills, there was nothing. There was a very little progress made, because your job first and foremost as a legislator is to make policies and debates, not oppose the hateful rhetoric that the president espouses, right? So, but what you get when you are able to practice circumspection is you're able to think through solutions. And I cannot sit down and say, I have more solutions to give you, but the only thing I can say is that when we have these conversations, we have to appeal to empathy that in people. It's the fastest way to get people to understand, or to get us, men, to understand that there's a need for us to cede that power. And there's no other way out. We have to actually cede that space, and there's no other way to get us to see it than to appeal to the empathy that we somehow hope to find in us.
You know, I always feel two ways, you know, conflicted when people say what you said, but I do get that. I feel like it's not the greatest way. Like, why can't you just use your common sense to know that you shouldn't kill someone? Like, are you fucking stupid? But like, I get what you are saying, that it's easier when you empathize with someone, when you put, like, that's why people always say things like, what if it was your mother? I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's when you say that sometimes that people are able to imagine themselves in that scenario, and all of a sudden it's bad. It's ridiculous, but like, I get it. Like, I completely get it. And Maryam, this next question is for you. It's a continuation of this. It's like, when you say what you want to say, just add what you think family members and communities, so like what role do they play in preventing gender-based violence and in moving away from gender roles, like how we raise kids?
So I think Buchi has a good point, but I don't think that's enough. Okay. It's helpful, but it's not enough. There should be harsh consequences. Yes. Okay. There should be public shaming, yes, right? Because women are shamed for not cooking. So if a man is shamed for beating his wife for not cooking, then that also helps him to feel, let me hide myself, or I can't come out and say this. And people need to rally around women. We need to stand up against violence and abuse as a community, as a society, because even on the larger scale, when you look at how violent we are as a people, it's really disturbing. Apart from violent extremism and bombing and stuff like that, it's very easy to be on a road and find that somebody resorts to violence. Like, okay, we have situations where people are killed for stealing, for example, for petty theft. And we have examples of people being quick to slap or people being quick to fight, right? I think as a society that exists amongst us, first of all, but then also when it comes to women. And I think obviously I always say this on every panel that I speak on, it starts from the family. Your family may not be a conventional family, that doesn't matter. But when you're raising a boy and when you're raising a girl, what you teach them matters. And one single person cannot do all the work. If you raise your son not to be violent towards women, he can go to school and meet with children who are raised to be violent towards women. So it needs to be like a collective effort from the family front, from the church front, from the mosque front, from whichever part of our society holds, power or influence. It has to be there. And when we begin to, deal with it from, I love his idea, but I think that works for children who are just learning about how to grow up, how to be women and how to be men. For us adults that are living and seeing it happen on a daily basis, I'm not sure how effective it will be. And I think that's where, harsh consequences come to work. So I worked on this project called the Purple Project, which was a UK aid project. And it was more about changing the social norms and how we view women and how even women relate to men. And all of these different aspects came together. So what he talked about, empathy, putting people in a room, asking people if they've experienced discrimination, abuse. You find that men have experienced it too, maybe from other men. And so it helps them to understand that, I don't like what I went through. I shouldn't put another person through it. And then you give very strong laws that are actually kept and upheld. And then you also have this thing of a society where all of us learn. If you are in your compound and a woman is being beaten, don't keep quiet and just say, it's a family matter. Right. No, everybody in the compound should come and knock on the door. How far? Why are you beating your wife? If, I've seen situations whereby women in a community gather and beat somebody that beat his wife.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I don't want to, promote violence, but let's rally around each other. Let's rally around each other.
Yeah. I'd like to add something to that. I think that, again, when we're discussing this thing, I think because of the nature of the prevalent circumstances where it's a man and a woman, we forget that it is actually a crime. In no part of the world do you stop murderers from killing people by teaching them empathy. I agree with you, Buchi, but when we think about it being an actual crime that should be punished, and I definitely agree, Maryam. I was going to mention shaming people for doing this thing. I think that the incidences would reduce. It's not a thing of, don't beat your wife, it's not good. It's don't beat your wife, you go to jail. Yes. Like, it's not why are you beating your wife? It's not beat like, will you like it? No, it's you will go to jail. And if she dies, you die as well. Do you understand? Like, it's an actual crime. If a man beats another man and kills that man in the process, we don't tell him, why did you do that? Like, it's an actual crime. And I think that, again, it says a lot about our cultural thing when people are like, you don't beat your wife, is not good. It's because a lot of times men are not seen as human beings. If two brothers fight, you don't say, no, it's why you prove. Do you understand? But when it comes to women, it's now, forgive him, let's talk to him, let's pray, let's see if his behavior will change. No, but she's an actual human being. Like, you should go to jail for that. And again, I was going to say, I definitely agree with shaming people. I think that a lot of times, honestly, if there were no consequences for murder, we'll just go around killing people. You do understand? Like, if there are no consequences for stealing, a lot of us with current economy, even I want to carry a gun and go rob a bank. But because there are consequences, because there is a shame of, your face will be plastered all over Insta blog, that you rob the bank. You'll be shamed. I think that shame holds people a lot from committing crimes. Because when a man beats a woman or his wife, he's not shamed enough, is why these things continue. So I think actual consequences, shame, and of course, empathy, but when we really think about it, it's an actual crime.
But you want to say something?
Yes, please, because maybe it's the journalist in me who wants to make sure that I'm not misrepresented. The question I was asked was actually about the perceptions and the norms, not about the violence. Yeah. I don't think that you should use empathy as a solution to not punishing someone, right? So I need to make that clear because I know how this works. It will now be that Buchi said use empathy to tell people when they no, that's a different conversation. As to the question I was asked was as to how you can actually get this norms, get us to rethink these norms.
Right.
And one of the best ways that you can do so is to make people walk each other's shoes. And when you do so, you can understand why the thing that you think perhaps is not great, because now you can imagine it. You can imagine those expectations made of you. So just to make, that's the only clarity I needed to make.
But to be fair, I think like the solution is a combination of all of these things. So it's not just, yes, empathy is great and conversations are great, but we also need to like make an example of someone so others can see that, well, if you do this, you're going to go to jail. So it's a mix of...
Absolutely, but that's not the question you asked me.
I know, no.
I'm trying to make
I
clear,
am supporting you. What is your problem?
Yeah.
I'm saying it's a mix, like the solution is not one thing. It's a mix of many things.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the last question that I wrote here. Now that I see it again, I'm laughing at it because I wrote, what actions can be taken to ensure we're not revisiting this issue in a decade? And when I think about what the data says and history, like we've been talking about this since I was born, right? My mother's generation has been talking about it. I'm like, this question, is it? I don't know. I feel like tomorrow we'll talk about it, next month, next year. But I guess to rephrase it a bit, are there any immediate actions? Because I feel like this is a long game, first of all. Let's be honest with ourselves. It's not a today, tomorrow thing. And this is for everyone. What are these immediate actions that we can take now as we leave this room to kind of just create a place in the world where we contribute to minimizing the existence of gender-based violence and how women are raised? I think I'll start with Maryam.
Oh, where am I going first?
I don't know, you were looking at me.
Okay, immediate actions, right? I think it's something I mentioned earlier, how like we shouldn't turn our face away from it. If someone beats his wife to death, it means he had been beating her before that, right? And if maybe something had been done sooner, that woman may have survived the situation. Of course, like, I think people also need to understand. I think there's another thing that people do when a woman doesn't leave an abusive relationship, they get angry with her. But psychologically, people say it takes like, according to something I read, it takes about 5 tries. 7 tries
Is it 5,
to
7?
leave an abusive relationship or marriage. So I feel like people also need to take it easy on women who experience those things, because you're born into a world where your roles are already placed on you. So it's hard to break out of that, mold for yourself. So I think we need to, as a community, rally around women. And I don't just mean women. I think men as well need to rally around women. That helps a lot. And I'll give the example of, I think for me, what has really helped me and shaped me and some people around me is like how I was raised to be outspoken, to stand up for myself, to be all of these things. It really helps. So if we are able to teach other girls and other boys around us, it doesn't have to be on a large scale, but if we have children around us, it's important to teach them these things as well.
I love that. Tofumi, do you want to add anything?
I think for now, like right now, living the room, what we can do is to check ourselves. So if you go to, say, a restaurant or any like a place of business that you think, and there are people there that are attending to you, who do you turn to for help? Is it usually the woman or is it usually the man? There's something that I do, especially if like a restaurant, people would, think that a woman would be more suited for that position. I would like just face the guy and say, hi, I'm trying to buy food. Just a thing that I do just to sort of make it a normal thing in my head, because even so, again, like I said, we are conditioned. So even me speaking it, there's sometimes where I see a woman in maybe in a caregiving position, and I immediately feel, oh yeah, she's a woman, she should be in that position. Like it's not. I'm a card carrying feminist, but it's just a thing in my head. Like, yeah, a woman is there. She should be the one doing it. And I constantly have to remind myself that should not be the case. Like, it should start from me. Like, if I see in a caregiving role where, there's a woman and a man, especially maybe like in a hospital where I feel more comfortable with a female doctor, treat them the same. Don't think that the woman should be nicer to you because she's a woman, or she should serve you better because she's a woman. Like, you need to approach it with an equality mindset that, you know, they're both here, they're both doing the job. She's not going to, and I find that people do that a lot when they say, I went there, they were even rude. Imagine, even the woman self was rude. Do you understand? And it's like, why can't she be as rude as I feel like just approach things like this with an equality mindset, and before you know it, like tell the next person, the next one tells the next person, and before you know it, it just becomes like a norm, like you said. You know what? We need to think of them as two equal people that are just, you know, serving us.
Okay, we need to go to Q&A, but Buchi, is there something you want to very quickly?
I agree with that.
Okay. Do you really agree?
There's nothing to disagree with, so absolutely I agree with that.
Okay, for the Q&A, right, please don't do, this is what I think. Just ask the question, please, I beg you. Don't tell us your life story. Good, I'm glad you don't have a question. Don't have observation. Questions only. Please put your hands up. I don't want to hear your thoughts. I want the question. Yes, there's this lady in front. Hi. And say who it's directed to.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So this is more of a concern, and it's directed to Buchi. So you spoke about men, that it's okay for men, and I realized that in recent times, before when we talk about gender, it's always focused on women. But then in recent times now, there's a shift, like we can now talk about men speaking up. But then I realized that it's women even telling them to speak up. Like, where are the men? I cannot be doing the job you should do. Like, I can't be the one telling the men it's okay for you to cry. They won't understand me. Recently, I was sharing with her that a guy came to my DM when I posted a poem that it's okay for a guy to sigh, you know, all those things, and said it's demeaning that I'm asking him to cry. So, imagine. So, where are the men who should educate these men to show their emotions? I can't be the one doing that. That's my concern.
Buchi, I don't think Buchi said it was okay, by the way, but just to clarify.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I actually like the question because I've seen that question, sort of, that observation a lot, especially on social media, especially on Twitter, where they say, you know, when you say men are not being raised to do this, well, what are you doing? You know, who do you expect, you know, women to come do this for you, feminists to come do this for you? And I think it's very sort of reflective of the times, right? Rhetoric over a bit more circumspection. Gendered work is institutional work. And I say this as someone who works in the non-profit space. Gendered work is institutional work. It is really huge, and it's very complex, very nuanced. It's a product of long-term design, right? It's not by, oh, man, it's fine to cry. No, that's not how you begin to dismantle all of those things. And there's a reason it hasn't got there yet, right? There's finite resources, and when you look at the numbers, both economically, socially, all of that, it says that you should actually spend this money on women, and that's absolutely fine. That's where I want it to be, right? But it will get there to the point where there's institutional thought behind how we raise men, institutional planning long term. Not, take for example, the International Women's Day, right? There's rhetoric to say, well, International Men's Day, you're not celebrating yourself now. Have you seen, you're keeping quiet. Tomorrow, all of that is basically just rhetoric, because all of these themes, all of the planning, it's years long, and it's institutional heavy work. It will get there. There will be people who do so, but more and more we have to acknowledge that, first of all, there is a gap. And when we talk more about the gap, then we can begin to say, okay, how can we fix it, right? So no, I don't expect you to come tell me that it's okay to cry, or that I expect you to come do the work of telling other men how to cry. I can assure you that men talk to men. This one is, I can tell you for free. And we talk to men in spaces where you may not particularly inhabit. What do you think we do when we sit down and share drinks? We don't only just talk football, contrary to what you think. We do talk within ourselves. It's a trope that has been popularized a lot, but I can assure you, as a man, unless you want to tell me what we do, right?
So I think just to bring... You promised me you were going to be calm. You promised me you were going to disrupt this panel. I will expose you. So I think I want to come out, like, what she might be saying or what's interesting is to consider that when you think about it, unfortunately, men mostly just listen to men. There are things, and maybe that's the context, like maybe that's something to also consider. There are things where I've said something, the exact same thing. There's no man listening to me. The minute my husband says, he used my exact same words, they're like, oh, okay. Meanwhile, that's literally what I've just said. So I think there's something to think about where she's talking about men having conversations with other men about things like this, because they just don't listen. It's like I'm talking and this guy can say the exact same thing, like, oh, we get it now. So I feel like that's probably an angle that she might have been talking about, where men, when it comes to women's conversations, they would rather just listen to other men. I do not like it. It's lazy, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I want to give an example. I'm sorry. I want to...
It'll come.
Can you... Okay, it works now. I want to give an example. I mean, I get it. I think in the public space, men, just like she said, like, men are not really willing to even to be accountable for certain things. And I think that affects how they also learn some things. But where men talk to men, I feel there are some communities. I've seen some that are doing really good, a really good job. I know that in some churches, they've begun to develop these communities where older men talk to younger men about the mistakes that they made with their wives, with their children, so that they don't build the same kind of family. And I think it's just happening, the scale is just too small, and it needs to be a lot bigger than that. So if anybody is in here and is a member of a group, I will just encourage you to try to create that community. And also, you should also talk about how men should be able to listen to women as well when you are talking to each other, please.
Okay. I think let's go here just for a bit. There's some people here too. Okay, fine. He's looking at me with puppy eyes. Okay. And then we'll come here. Oh, she has the mic. Sorry. I think after her. Hi. Can't hear you well. But we'll go back to the puppy eye.
Okay, my question is directed to Buchi.
Ha.
Yeah. No.
After these people are banned from asking Buchi questions.
I feel like you have something there that I'm not sure you were able to. The other speaker or the other question lady already like touched on it, but I think you have something there, some perspective from a guy's, from living as a guy that you can share with us. I think that. So directly to my question, right? I would like to learn some of the things I would like to understand some of the things you've learned from working with, it looks like you've worked in the space, like men, why the social conditioning of being a man, the pressures that come to being a man. I want us to discuss that more. I know that it's a gender war conversation, but I think we've tilted more towards the woman, and we've kind of like just from that point of empathy, just really shed more light on some research that you have done, and as like maybe the evolution of a man to where we are right now. Thank you.
That's gonna take forever. Buchi, try your best to make it short.
I will try to make it as short as is possible, and I would say it's not just necessarily about work. I would just tell you that for me, as I don't have a sister. I have 5 brothers, so. I didn't even grow up, with that whole, the concept of gender roles, right? Even as a child. But I can also tell you that at no point did I not know when growing up that I was expected to cater, that I was expected to be responsible for. And I always understood as a child that the definition of who I am, right, begins from what I'm able to provide. And no, I'm not talking about that trope of, men are not love conditional, blah, blah, all of that nonsense. No, I'm talking about the fact that that's what defines you first as a man, right? What do you do? What value do you add, right? And how do you protect? How responsible are you for the people that you have with you? And in many cases, we can express them in ways that we may not even know that they're wrongly expressed. I'll give a really short story. My wife, I travel a lot for work, and my brother also lives with us. But one particular time when I was away, my brother was to travel. And I was talking with my wife on phone, and I said, so that it would just be you in the house. All right, so let me think about which of my friends that you're comfortable with that can come, hang around for 2 days. in the house. I'm coming, right? So when I thought about this, I thought about it in terms of, I'm worried about my wife staying alone in that big house with, whoever it is. And she kept quiet, and then later told me no. But much later, she spoke to me and she said, I was living alone before I married you, right? And so I didn't like that. But that was instinctive, right? But that's largely because I had been socialized to think that it was my responsibility to keep her safe, right? So these are things that we learn as we go on, right? And so it's part of the socialization. It's that entitlement we talk about. It's crazy that men have it, but there's a reason that fed that entitlement. It's because there are expectations expected of us, and we believe that the reward for those responsibilities or expectations is that entitlement that we're supposed to have. It is wrong, but that's what it is.
It is what it is. I think that's actually really great context. Thank you, Buchi. This man with the filler.
Thank you, Buchi, from all the men in Africa.
Oh, please.
I promise you, I'm not a men's rights advocate. I promise you.
Well, as a passionate feminist, a true one too, I want to tell you I love women. My grandmom is a mom.
Question. Just tell us the question.
Context. Context is everything. And I don't mean to be patronizing, but you have to see things from a man's point of view, in as much as you expect men to see things from a woman's point of view. Now let's take, for example, in a question format, what do you expect a young man to do when he does something wrong? You beat him at home. You let him run around the place. You scold him. You punish him. And maybe daddy has gone to work. Mommy too has gone to work. It may be the housemaid or the helper who punishes him, beats him. They come back from work, they beat him too. How many of you as women experienced beating as much as the men here?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Wait.
You know, I was suspicious when you started giving all that context. I should have known. When you started giving all that context, I should have known.
I'm asking a question.
No, you're not, sir. You're not asking a question.
You're not. And it's oddly specific. Are you talking about yourself?
Have I finished my question?
It's too specific.
Please, you want us to listen to you. Listen to
What is your question?
You can see why the suicide rate.
Okay, right.
Go straight to the question.
Let me go to, I have a couple of questions.
Okay, let's go straight to them.
Please, listen to me now.
Guys, let's listen to him, please.
Men should just keep quiet and...
No, talk. Let me tell you something.
Okay.
If you ask a question that is funny, don't be surprised when people shout.
No, it's okay. Yes, it's a funny question.
Okay, let's all quiet down and let's actually hear the question.
I know my sister did not experience as much beating.
That's great, but you generalize.
Now, wait. I asked a question. I didn't generalize. I asked a question. How many? As much. That's what I said. To an unnecessary degree, you find a lot of young boys experiencing a lot of abuse at home. And that is a fact. And the ladies may not experience that much. Wait, I said men. Wait. Now, see.
Just ask.
Wait.
I don't think you're being fair. I don't think you're being fair. You've held the mic for so long.
Okay,
no need for all the context. Just ask.
I'm
going to cut you off if you don't ask.
You guys, see, men.
What's the question?
See, you are making it difficult for me to communicate.
Just say the question.
Half of the time trying to say please. That's the problem that many of us men.
The question, please.
Wait now. Men, let me tell you something.
Can you take the mic from him if he doesn't answer the question?
Yes, you
please
can.
Take the mic from him.
Wait, please.
There was someone over there raising.
That is not fair.
Say the question. I'm actually tired. We have 6 more minutes.
I want to ask a question.
All right, ask.
Okay. Give men the opportunity to speak.
There was someone over there raising their hands up. Can we get the mic to the person, please?
This is quite unfair. Everybody
it's not fair. I've been looking at the clock and you've been talking for 1 minute 52 seconds without a question.
Sorry, I will talk and I just ask maybe a minute just to listen to me, please.
Can someone get the mic from him, please?
It's not a matter of entitlement. Sorry. Because, yes, I want you... Okay, you know what? I think.
Please give Lola the mic.
Okay.
You were talking for 1 minute and 53 seconds without asking a question. Fatima,
okay.
You promised me you'd be good.
I will say this. Men experience.
I didn't see that.
There's an expectation that is placed upon men.
Okay.
I will leave and go this and go. An expectation. I feel, and I'm a very confident person, a bit intimidated right now. Well, and that is not something you should laugh after because it's not a good thing. When you belittle men, you cannot expect us to lift women up. One, the kind you see, you cannot expect. Wait, please, sir. You cannot expect. Wait now. You cannot expect to become the monsters you are trying to curb.
Monsters.
That's thing.
Okay, I'd like to say something very quickly because we have just 5 minutes
Men experience
left.
a lot of suicide. Men experience a lot of pressure. Men experience a lot of disgruntledness because of the way we don't have a chance to speak out, to express our concerns.
Okay, I have just 5.
Even as women, see, you may love me, you may hate me.
I will respond to what you said, I promise,
the
but
fact,
we have to take the mic from you.
Okay, you know what?
There's a timer here and it says we have just 5 minutes
I have
left.
not said anything at all.
All right, that's fine.
Yes, I have.
Can we all be quiet, please?
Wait.
Can we all be quiet, please?
Now you can see the problem.
Can we all be quiet,
cannot
please?
speak, but you want to marry men, you want to love men, but you don't want to give us a chance to speak.
Can somebody please take the mic?
Lola, please, can you take the mic from me?
Somebody
Lola
that
is too kind. All right. Let everyone be
for
quiet,
3
please.
minutes.
Please.
I kept insisting that men are not allowed to talk. 3 minutes with the
So
mic.
here's my response. I'm sorry that you feel that way. Excuse me, gentlemen. I'm sorry that you feel that way, but here's my response, and here's the reason why. Excuse me, I was forced to listen to you. So the reason why I was the way I was to you was because, one, there was a rule, no talking for long, just go straight to the question. You spent 1 minute 53 seconds first going in circles with a very oddly specific story that I didn't understand. So one, you were already breaking the rules. Two, you generalized. And in the process of generalizing, you demeaned the experiences of women. You say how many women have experienced the kind of abuse. That's not a question. You were generalizing. And number three, when people were correcting you, you still continued to argue. So there is no way that I'm going to take that. Sorry. Next question, please. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Next question, please. There's mommy over there.
Hello.
Can we get the mic to mom, please?
Hello.
Oh, okay, someone's already with the mic. I'm sorry. You go next, ma.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello.
Sorry, can we hear him? We only have 3 minutes. Please, let's make use of the time.
Yeah.
Sorry, please go on.
Thank you.
One house, please. This is Lola's fault. You know when we started, you said chaos. It's your fault. Sorry.
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
Guys, please. All right.
The house is really heated. Good evening.
Hi.
My question is directed to Maryam Laushi. So, all the outcry by the feminists is mostly directed towards the men folk in court.
As opposed
So, the men,
let him ask, please.
the men are born, groomed, and nurtured by women. So, please, what's the role of the feminists? Like, what's the action they are taking towards the women folk in raising gentlemen that do not segregate, in raising gentlemen that are conscious of the gender, in raising gentlemen that do not abuse women.
Guys, please, because
we learn passively, we learn actively and passively from the women.
Please.
We learn from our mothers who are our first teachers.
I get your question. So it's mostly that it's women that raise men and we're having this problem. So you are essentially
I think I can answer the question.
Some people make it so hard.
I can answer the question.
One house, please.
Hold on.
We have just 1 minute, please.
No, let me just respond to him for the benefit of those who don't understand in the room, right? As a father has a major role to play in a child's life. So don't outsource and expect the mother. Don't expect the mother to do everything. That's number one. Number two, the angle you're coming from, I actually get it. You're talking about situations whereby women internalize that misogyny and they take it out on their female daughters, sometimes their daughters-in-law, and then they don't teach their sons the right thing. But what I'm trying to explain to you, it's a vicious circle. It's not like a woman just woke up and decided this is how she's going to be. She's been born into a world where her life revolves around men. And it's very difficult. The level of self-awareness it takes to understand that on your own and unlearn it is very difficult. So yes, there is the reality of internalized misogyny, and we see it because women will tell you their experiences where women treated them a certain way. But what I will tell you as a man, and as somebody who wants to raise a family, is that I cannot raise a family with a man who is not able to take responsibility and teach his own children too. So men need to take responsibility. Men need to be accountable for how their sons are raised, because even a woman may not be able, even if a woman is a superwoman, she may not be able to do all of it. And it's not just your son, it's your nephew, it's your son, your friend's son. So it's a bunch of different things that come together. But what I don't like is the situation whereby people, what's the role of feminists? Do you know how hard feminists have suffered to fight for certain things? Do you know how even right now feminists are fighting for the gender equal opportunity bill, that every single time it goes to the National Assembly, they kill it? Do you know that as a Nigerian woman, if I marry a foreign man, he can't be a Nigerian by marrying me, but if a Nigerian man marries a foreign woman, she's automatically a Nigerian. There are so many realities that women face. There are so many things that feminists are actually fighting for, and I think to dismiss it that, oh, what are they doing? I really don't think that is fair, okay? But thank you for your question.
We're out of time. We can't take any more questions. Can we squeeze or not? We're out of time. Someone there? One very quickly. All right, Ma. All right, very quickly.
Thank you, panel, for such a lovely discussion. I admit that this problem is long-term, is a vicious cycle. But we need to identify how to break this cycle. We're talking about men and women. What about the children? They are the victims there. The people that were abused end up being abusers a lot of times. I wrote a book, Shadows from the Past, talking about how children that grew up in a family that experienced domestic violence, how it affected their marriages. So we need to reach children before they get to that stage where they then are in a position where they can be abusers. So we need to also take them into consideration. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much for that. We're completely out of time. So let's